Apple is almost certainly going to unveil its next iPhone lineup in September. And if the latest reporting and industry chatter are on target, this fall could bring a three-phone headline: the iPhone 18 Pro, the iPhone 18 Pro Max, and Apple's first folding iPhone, widely rumored as the iPhone Ultra. Though there's still a chance Apple goes with the more straightforward name iPhone Fold. The big question everyone's searching for right now is simple: when exactly will Apple reveal them? When do pre-orders open? When do reviews drop? And when can you actually buy them? Apple's iPhone launch calendar is famous for being consistent. Most years, Apple uses September for its biggest keynote of the year, and that event sets off the domino effect. Keynote first, pre-orders shortly after, reviews a few days before launch, and then the new iPhones hit stores less than 2 weeks after the announcement. Apple can surprise us occasionally, but when it comes to the flagship iPhone schedule, the company tends to stick to the same reliable rhythm. So let's talk about the most likely iPhone 18 Pro keynote date. Historically, Apple's iPhone event lands in the first half of September. It's usually a Tuesday or Wednesday, with the occasional Monday. And there's one date Apple avoids for the keynote: September 11th. Another key detail that matters every single year is Labor Day. Apple typically does not hold the iPhone keynote on the day right after Labor Day, because the company needs time to fly in press, creators, partners, and special guests to Cupertino from around the world. That travel and logistics window is part of why Apple usually gives itself breathing room. If Labor Day falls on Monday, September 7th, that makes Tuesday, September 8th a very unlikely keynote day. Once you remove that option, the calendar naturally points to Wednesday, September 9th as the cleanest, most Apple-like choice. It fits the early September window, it fits the midweek keynote habit, and it avoids the immediate post-holiday crunch. It also lines up with a date that has shown up repeatedly in recent iPhone season scheduling patterns. And Apple loves familiarity because it keeps everything from manufacturing to shipping to retail staffing running smoothly. Of course, Apple won't confirm anything until invites go out. And there's another variable in play this year that could influence timing: the foldable iPhone. If Apple is truly launching its first folding iPhone, whether it's called iPhone Ultra or iPhone Fold, that's a brand new category with brand new production complexity. Foldable displays, hinge engineering, tighter tolerances, and manufacturing yields can make supply unpredictable, especially early on. That doesn't mean Apple can't announce it at the same keynote as the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max, but it does raise the possibility that the Foldable could ship later than the Pro models, even if it's introduced on the same stage. Still, if we work from the most likely keynote prediction, Wednesday, September 9th, then we can map out the rest of the iPhone 18 Pro launch timeline using Apple's typical schedule. Next comes iOS 27. This is the software that would be pre-installed on the new iPhone 18 Pro lineup, and it's also the update that will roll out to millions of existing iPhone users once it leaves beta. Apple usually releases the major iOS update very soon after the iPhone keynote, typically on the Monday following the event, sometimes Tuesday depending on final build readiness and regional rollout plans. If the keynote happens on September 9th, a strong prediction for the iOS 27 general release date would be Monday, September 14th, with Tuesday, September 15th as the other very plausible option. And Apple will almost certainly announce the exact iOS 27 release date during the keynote itself, because that's part of the standard iPhone event script. Now let's get to pre-orders, because that's where the real countdown starts. Apple usually opens iPhone pre-orders on the Friday immediately following the keynote. So if the iPhone 18 Pro keynote lands on Wednesday, September 9th, the iPhone 18 Pro pre-order date would most likely be Friday, September 11th. In the United States, Apple typically flips the switch at 8 a.m. Pacific time. If you've ever tried to pre-order a high-demand iPhone on launch week, you already know the best strategy is to prepare ahead of time. Update the Apple Store app, confirm your payment method, make sure your shipping address is correct, and know exactly which configuration you want: storage size, color, and carrier, so you're not making decisions while delivery dates slide. After pre-orders open, Apple's next big moment is the review embargo. Apple tends to lift iPhone review embargoes in the week of release, usually on the Tuesday or Wednesday before the phones go on sale. That creates a burst of coverage: camera tests, battery life results, real-world performance, and side-by-side comparisons right before people receive their pre-orders or walk into stores. If the iPhone 18 Pro release day is set for Friday, September 18th, then the most likely iPhone 18 Pro review drop would be Tuesday, September 15th or Wednesday, September 16th. That's when you can expect the first wave of iPhone 18 Pro review headlines, detailed camera samples, and the first real answers on whether the upgrades are worth it. Finally, release day. Apple is almost unbelievably consistent here. For its flagship iPhones, the on-sale date is typically the Friday of the week after the keynote. If the keynote is Wednesday, September 9th, then the iPhone 18 Pro release date is most likely Friday, September 18th. That's when the phones would arrive to many pre-order customers, and it's when they would officially be available in Apple stores and retail partners. There is a second possible timeline if Apple pushes the keynote back by a week, which would move the on-sale date to Friday, September 25th. That's not impossible, but it's slightly less attractive from Apple's perspective because it delays the sales ramp and pushes the launch deeper into late September. Apple generally prefers to get the Pro models into customers' hands sooner rather than later. Now, here's the twist to watch: the foldable iPhone. Even if Apple announces the iPhone Ultra or iPhone Fold alongside the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max, it wouldn't be surprising if it launches a week or two later. That could happen purely for manufacturing reasons. Foldables are harder to produce at scale, but it could also be a smart marketing play. If Apple ships the Pro models first and then releases the folding iPhone later, the company gets to dominate the news cycle twice. In that scenario, reviews for the folding iPhone would also drop later than the iPhone 18 Pro reviews, keeping attention on Apple's lineup for longer. So if you're trying to plan your upgrade, budget, trade-in timing, or carrier deal strategy, the most likely iPhone 18 Pro launch schedule looks like this: a keynote on Wednesday, September 9th, iOS 27 released around Monday, September 14th or Tuesday, September 15th, iPhone 18 Pro pre-orders opening Friday, September 11th at 8 a.m. Pacific. First reviews landing Tuesday, September 15th or Wednesday, September 16th. And the iPhone 18 Pro release date most likely Friday, September 18th. And if Apple's foldable iPhone Ultra or iPhone Fold is real, expect it to be the wild card announced at the same event, but potentially arriving later due to the realities of foldable hardware production. Now all we need is the official Apple event invite. Once Apple announces the keynote date, everything else: pre-orders, iOS 27 release timing, review embargo, and release day falls into place almost like clockwork.